So I heard in one of your talks this co-creating with Jerry, and how when Jerry's doctor said, I've always known this, but now I'm going to use it in my practice, it made me clarify, because usually illness is seen as this negative manifestation, but yet I'm seeing my mom every day reach for higher thoughts, shed, allow. I mean, it's been, to me, the closest to a quantum leap of love I've ever seen through illness. And I cannot choose to see her as negative manifestation that's happened to her. This journey has been this path of opening, love. I can now, I don't want her to, but I could now let her transition. She will know my love. We are one. We are one. I have served her. I have loved her. I have absorbed her every day. I have brought my attention to her. And now there's no question between us. 5 years ago, I could have felt guilt if she died. But now we are just this one source. And I cannot see these illnesses as negative. They're beautiful.
We are appreciating really the intensity of this contrasting experience and the value that it has helped you to focus upon and find. And it is our desire that you could all let all contrast serve you in such a potent way. But you don't, because if it isn't something that is gut-wrenching, usually, you don't give it too much attention. So we want to come back and talk to you specifically about the things that you offer to us. But first, with everyone having just experienced it and some having had their own experiences that are similar, we want to say to you that contrast, no matter how great or how small it is always a beneficial thing, because it always has the potential of doing for you what you have just described that it is doing for you. And with all of that, there is some compensating for things that you are expressing, and some wanting to make something that you really would prefer not to happen a better thing that it really feels like it is. There's some of that going on there too. But the story that you're really telling that is so important is that contrast does promote focus, and focus is a good thing. So the primary thing that we want to say to all of you is that you don't have to look for these kinds of experiences to feel the way she's feeling about it. In other words, this powerful now, what this has done for you and your mother has caused both of you to focus more frequently and, as you said, to go deeper into the connection of who you are. But you really do not need to experience something that is so big or so heart-wrenching or so big on your scale of things that are important in order to have this kind of clarity come from you. Contrast just serves you. And what causes this intensity is not the subject of life and death. It's not the subject of physical and non-physical. It's not the intensity of the deep love that the two of you have for each other. What this conversation is about is much simpler than all of that. This is the subject of focus, therefore this is the subject of momentum. So what you're saying is that we have discovered this passionate momentum that is serving us both well in terms of our connection, and what we are saying to all of you is that you can accomplish that momentum on any subject that you choose to focus upon and not contradict. And the reason that you choose to focus upon it, and we know that you are appreciating it for this reason, if not this reason alone, is because you don't have any other choice. We've been saying to you for a while, we really like it when something happens that your choices are alignment or alignment. We really like it when you get to that. Alignment or alignment. Alignment or alignment. Because the alignment is something that when you feel it, it is such relief. And the not alignment is untenable. The not alignment is unthinkable. The not alignment is you can't take it.
And I felt that. I spent weeks with her in the hospital, and I'd be alone at night, and she'd be having this physical test the next day. They were looking for illness. They were looking for whatever. And I would sit there and I would kind of go into fear. And I appreciate your teaching so much because I knew in that fear that I was disconnecting with what my source felt. And really, when I really went into it, I thought, this is not a physical thing we're looking for. These aren't physical questions. Everyone who comes to me wants to say, what did they say? Why is there this? And I want to say, this is a spiritual question. This is not a physical question. So when I would disconnect in my fear at night, I would literally say, I'm going away from my source. I'm going away from my all-knowing, and I would just stay there and breathe, and I could slightly reach for a better thought, and then be in the now, and slightly reach for a better thought. That path lighting up felt so good to me to know that I could reach for that.
And can you feel that, and this is the big question that we want to ask, and the big takeaway for you that we want you to take away from it, is that sometimes it's hard to hear. In the situations that are the hardest like that, it's the easiest to do what you know how to do, because your choices feel less. It's the day-to-day experiences where the stakes don't feel that high that you don't make those good choices. That's why we want to have this conversation, is because so many things are happening. There's so much life going on around you. So many people are making choices to which you have to adapt. You are not the creator of anyone else's reality, but you are often one who feels like you have to adapt to the reality that someone else is creating. And we want you to prepare yourself for living happily ever after by caring about how you feel on things that don't feel so big that they demand or command your focus. You see what we're getting at? Because what makes up the majority of your vibration are not these big, seemingly life-changing conversations. It's the day-to-day things when you meet someone that you've never met before and they say something that's off-putting to you and you go away sulking and you carry it with you for a little while. That's a much more emphatic moment where you had choices that you didn't take the time to make the choice that would feel the best to you because it didn't feel that important. Are you getting what we're...
And I have to say, I would drive to the hospital and my intention, my focus, I was like absorbing all this love to give to my mom. And then I would go home and I would think my first thought to my husband was, okay, why don't you do the dishes? I've been at the hospital all night. And my greatest takeaway from that was, I'm intentionally gathering for my mom, and we're this, and I need to intentionally go home. And why wouldn't I make that choice coming to my husband? Because he's not sick, and that was a great lesson.
Because the stakes don't feel that high, and
Totally.
Therefore I will be sloppy in my thinking or sloppy in my alignment.
So if I was going to ask you a direct question, I just feel like every time we think of disease, we feel like, oh, they have negative thoughts, so they have disease. Is there a path of least resistance, of shedding, of becoming who we want to? Like my mom is a beautiful...
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But now this is why this conversation is so emphatically important. Yes, anyone can come to some place where they are consciously acknowledging that the now that they are interested in is more delicious from the non-physical point of view than it is from the physical point of view. Yes, but a society that trains itself to need a big event often demands a big event for that transition. Did you hear it? Because this is the same conversation that we just had, where you'll have a thought, you'll focus deliberately when the stakes are high, but you're sloppy, we love you so much, and you're thinking when the stakes aren't high, and it's that not learning how to focus that makes it more necessary for you to have something dramatic that gives you the excuse to make your transition. You don't need an excuse. You could say, this is great, see ya. So that's why we're appreciating so much this conversation, because focus serves you on big subjects and small subjects, and focus allows momentum. Unless you allow yourself to rest in a thought that creates the momentum that gives you substantial connection to source energy, then you're not really living this life in the way that you intended to do.
Well, although I'm not wanting all of this to happen, it is definitely a space that has pushed me.
But before you go further,
Yeah.
not wanting this to happen, so are there not things all day, every day that you have access to, knowing about, that you would prefer don't happen?
Mm-hmm.
And do you have the opportunity to control those uncontrollable, there's a hint there, events, in order to keep yourself happy? And so what we're saying to you is, why do you not release your resistance? Why does it have to be an inevitable situation before you're willing to give up the struggle? Why not just give up the struggle? Why not just not pick fights and not fight back? Why not just connect to who you are and allow the universe to satisfy for you in the fullest way possible, which is manifestational, the things that you have incrementally identified and put into your vortex? This is a tender subject, and it's a subject that everyone makes far too much of. And the reason that people make so much of it is because they haven't really figured out how to really enjoy the now. Because if you're really enjoying the now, then it's now, 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 now. There will never be a moment in your now that will feel better to you than the moment of your transition into non-physical. But you can provide those same similarities in your now with the pieces of resistance that you leave behind. With each piece of resistance that you leave behind, you simulate what your transition to non-physical is going to be, where in one fell swoop, you leave behind all resistance and you just have the understanding of all that you are. And so we don't want to trivialize this topic. No, we really do.
I like it.
We really do. We want to take the sting out of it. We want to say there's nothing serious going on. We want to say we're all in this together. We want to say we all come and go and come and go and come and go and come and go and continue to be. And that in any moment that we allow the fullness of who we are to be, it's a joyful moment. We want to say to you, you got to get over this death thing. We want to say to you that until you do, you don't really live. Until your dread about it really ceases. So often, as you watch someone make a transition, your dread about them making their transition ceases because they're ceased. But your own dread about your transition or your own dread about somebody else's just goes on and on and on and on, and you just transfer it to another and to another and to another. And it really is time for you to let all topics that are uncomfortable to you be understood by you from your broader perspective. We want you to feel your power and your empowerment and your eternalness. We want you to know that others don't have to perform in any particular way in order for you to have the connection that you're reaching for. We want you to practice finding that connection in whatever way presents itself to you, and that's what's going on here. What a magnificent opportunity for you to discover things about yourself that maybe you would have put off discovering if it hadn't been for this intense way. But then your conversation and our conversation about it opens up awareness for you more deeply, for Esther more deeply, for all of you more deeply, to just take it easy, to just reach for the thoughts that feel better. Because what are your choices? Really? Do you have the ability to control momentum of thoughts that have been created in your environment? As they relate to you, absolutely. As they relate to anyone else, none of your business. And so when you begin to deliberately find the place that feels good and maintain it, and then watch the universal response to your alignment. It doesn't take very much of that. We're talking about a few days or weeks before you come into the fullness of who you are. You couple, you co-create, you coexist, you blend with, you merge with, and the whole of who you are is not insecure about death, because the whole of who you are, by your standards, is already dead. Is already eternal, is already non-physical, is already that. You see what we're getting at? Is already understanding it from that perspective, is already understanding the value of that perspective and the value of this perspective. And when you really get those perspective blends, then and only then is your now what you meant for it to be when you got here. You didn't say, I'll go worry myself into oblivion. You said, I'll go and I'll figure it out. And that's what these experiences are doing. They're helping you to figure it out. Really good.
Thank you.